Will Nintendo release a brand new Nintendo Switch model in 2024? And no, I'm not talking about the potential Switch 2, the successor to the Nintendo Switch. I'm actually talking about a revision alongside the lines of the Nintendo Switch OLED and the Nintendo Switch Lite. Will we see a revision of the original Nintendo Switch hardware from 2017 next year? Let's talk about it. Hello there everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Botox Games, and today I want to talk about the idea that Nintendo might be releasing a revision for the Nintendo Switch in 2024. Over the weekend there was a lot of rumblings about a potential Switch Mini, and we'll talk about that in particular in just a bit, but I want to talk about just the idea and kind of ask the question, why would Nintendo release this? Why would they release new Switch OG hardware in 2024 when most people think the Switch 2 is releasing in 2024. Now, if you know me, if you've been following my channel for a while, I'm pretty adamant about the idea that the Switch 2 is not releasing in 2024. Most people disagree with that. That's fine. I just have very closely studied the analytics of Nintendo's financial data. I look at what's currently announced. I look at how they've acted in the past. And in my opinion, there's basically nothing suggesting a successor to the Nintendo Switch in 2024. However, I am completely on board with the idea that they might release a new revision of the original Nintendo Switch in 2024, and here's why. If you look at Nintendo's hardware sales over the course of the past 7 years for the Switch, it is clear that hardware is going down ever since COVID happened. Of course, they peaked with Animal Crossing, but actually, if you compare the year before Animal Crossing to the year after Animal Crossing, it actually went up. Of course, the year with COVID and Animal Crossing, that was kind of an anomaly. But either way, ever since then, it has been down. However, the percent decreases year over year for the Switch has been so substantially lower than previous Nintendo home consoles as well as handhelds. So frankly, for me, that's just a big reason I think the Switch 2 isn't releasing in 2024. However, it is undeniable that the Switch is selling less year over year, still selling very, very well, especially compared to other Nintendo systems in its 7th or 8th year, but it is still selling worse. So in my opinion, releasing a new revision of the Nintendo Switch is just a slam dunk idea for them to get through one more holiday, squeeze out as much potential sales from this original Switch as they can before the Switch 2 releases in, when I think it'll release, being March 2025. Because if Nintendo still sells 15 million Switches this fiscal year, it actually currently looks like they might be outpacing that projection, it's safe to assume that in 2024, they would likely sell maybe 10 to 12 million, which is still less, but still very good and still very healthy for a console in its 8th year. But a great way to boost that is just a new, cheaper model. So yes, I absolutely believe that they will release a new revision of the Nintendo Switch in 2024 that will help push the hardware one final holiday season until they get to the Switch 2 in March of 2025. But what will that revision be? Well, we have a potentially very reliable rumor, not even really rumor, we have actual patents from Nintendo that suggest that we might be getting a Nintendo Switch Mini. So we're going to go over all of this, and then we'll also talk about some other potential ideas that they could do. So here we have our first potential look at the Switch Mini this is an official patent from Nintendo. As you can see, they are going for a very small design. Of course, we already have the Switch Lite, but it seems like they're going to try to make this thing even smaller, make it actually truly portable, because I think for a lot of people, the Switch Lite is still kind of big. So as you can see, there's only a control stick, the 4 face buttons, and a screen. There's no other buttons on the surface of this console, and that's because they've moved all of those to the top or the bottom. So right here you can see the bottom of the unit actually has the volume button, it has the home button and the capture button. So they've moved all of these things around to the top and the bottom. And then just last week we got another patent about this. Nash Beetle says the patent expressly indicates the miniaturization of the electronic device that is in the patent. It specifically says they're trying to make a very small portable device intended to prevent the screws that join the casing from getting in the way. It is not from the Game & Watch. In addition to being new, the patent refers to sticks and cartridge slots. So this kind of looks like a Game & Watch, right? But it's not. They are specifically referring to sticks. They're referring to a cartridge slot. This thing is a Nintendo Switch Mini. That is what this patent is. Whether or not this will see the light of day, that remains to be seen, although I think that's very likely. There was also this patent for a new cooling system for a portable device. In this tweet, he's saying he thinks it's for Switch 2. However, I think it could be very likely that if they're trying to make such a small device, they would need some sort of new cooling for that very small device so it doesn't overheat. So this could very, very easily be for the Switch Mini. And here's the final patent, I believe, for the potential Switch Mini, indicating that they are moving the L and R buttons to be kind of in a line shape on the top of the console. So there's going to be a lot of buttons on the top and the bottom of this device. However, that is to make the surface area of it as small as possible while still keeping a hopefully decent screen size. We don't know the size of the screen for this thing yet, but just make it as compact as possible, make it truly a portable, because like I said, for a lot of people, the Switch Lite is still a little too big. You know, I mean, you can't really fit that thing in your pocket unless you have big pockets, right? So the idea here is to just make this as small as possible. And then one final thing here, Nash Weedle did give out some of their own predictions regarding the Nintendo Switch Mini or Nintendo Switch Pocket. They think it's going to release in February, which maybe that seems a little too soon. We'll see. Reduced pocket size console, removable protective cover with magnets. There was another patent regarding a case that is magnetic, so maybe that could line up with this. Caps different collectible models, so something more of like the Nintendo new 3DS faceplates maybe. There could be some more customization there. Variety of color models, maximum battery life 12 hours, accepts cartridges, and a suggested retail price of 150 euros, which translates to roughly like 160 USD, I believe. So you can probably assume 150 USD. But once again, these are just predictions. This is what they're saying, but maybe you could look into this and think, okay, maybe just, you know, informed speculation, basically. It's always nice to see some informed speculation. And I'll be honest, I think all of this lines up. I think all of it makes perfect sense. It is a little weird on paper to get another smaller Nintendo Switch. However, I don't know, man. I think there is some logic to it for them to make a smaller device. Now, we're kind of in a stage right now where handheld gaming devices are getting bigger and bigger. The PlayStation Portal is huge, the Steam Deck is huge, the ROG Ally is huge. The Switch Lite is still the smallest of all of those, but it seems like Nintendo really does want to make something even smaller, which I think is a good idea. This thing's not going to fly off the shelves. It's not going to be the you know, shot in the arm that the Switch needs to sell for 3 more years, but it's the shot in the arm the Switch needs to sell sustainably for another holiday season. I think that's exactly what this is. It is a band-aid to fully help boost sales for one more holiday season until they get to the Switch 2 in 2025. So while Nash Weedle thinks this thing will release in February, that is definitely possible. I would lean towards this thing releasing in the second half of the year. That is when Nintendo has traditionally released hardware revisions, not new consoles as of late, but in terms of hardware revisions, you know, the Switch OLED, the Switch Lite, these all came out in Q3, so September, October, in that time frame. I would expect this to release around then. Now, I do want to talk about some of my own ideas. In fact, these are both ideas that I've thrown around for years now, and one of them could end up going hand in hand with the Switch Mini, and that is the Switch Lite OLED. I have long talked about the idea that maybe they would just release another Switch Lite that has an OLED display. The Switch OLED is currently the best-selling model that Nintendo sells, which, I mean, it makes sense. People are going to want the nicest thing. It's only $50 more. Why not get the Switch OLED? Why not release a Switch Lite OLED? Or in this case, maybe the Switch Mini just has an OLED display. And because I'll never make a full video of this on its own, because I really don't think it means that much, I do want to talk about this entire Samsung display thing that you may have seen a lot of other people talking about. It is being reported that on December 1st, 2023, Nintendo had asked Samsung to display OLED panels for manufacturing. Now, a lot of people took this information and ran with it, thinking it means they are going to be using Samsung OLED panels for the Switch 2, and this would indicate that manufacturing is about to ramp up in quick succession. But if you actually read through it, this doesn't really indicate any of that. The reason Nintendo is switching, and correct me if I'm wrong, because maybe I'm reading this wrong, and let me know in the comments below, but the reason Nintendo is asking Samsung, and the reason they're switching to Samsung for their OLED displays, is because the Chinese electronic producer that they use right here, BOE, apparently there's some legal dispute with that. Now, once again, correct me if I'm wrong. I would love to be enlightened if I am mistaken here. But this just tells me that even for the original Switch OLED, if they were to manufacture more of them, Nintendo just wants to use Samsung panels. That's all there is to it. It doesn't really even indicate a new piece of hardware. Right? Am I crazy? I feel like everybody just saw this and was like, oh, this means Switch 2. You know, a lot of clickbait out there. This to me just means they're going to start using Samsung display panels for the Switch OLED. And maybe this could mean something for the Switch Mini. Maybe this does mean something for the Switch 2, but there's nothing actually written about this here that actually indicates this. And I'll link it in the description so you can read through it for yourself. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. I do think it is very possible that the Switch Mini is real. I think it makes a lot of sense, once again, just to give that the Switch one last injection of holiday sales. Not that it's really going to struggle next holiday, I don't think, but releasing new hardware is always going to help. That's pretty much guaranteed to get you a few million sales on top of whatever was already going to sell next holiday. But also, the idea of this thing having an OLED screen does make it a lot more attractive for people that already have a Switch Lite. Now, the only issue there is I feel like this would then make the pricing structure of this a little bit more dubious. Ideally, the Switch Mini would be less expensive than the Switch Lite, but maybe maybe they would just make it the same price. Maybe it would be $200. The Switch Lite is currently the Switch's least selling model, so it would kind of make sense to phase that out a little bit, and then maybe just go with this moving forward at the same price point. Maybe they could do an OLED display for $150. That'd be a pretty aggressive price drop, so I don't really see them doing that. So realistically, this thing won't have an OLED display, but if they do what I said, maybe they phase out the original Switch Lite, then releasing this as a Switch Mini OLED for $200 in the US, that could make a lot of sense. And then, of course, just to mention it, because this is something I've talked about for years, I'm not unique in thinking this, a lot of people have thought about this. How have we not gotten a docked-only Switch? My theory is that maybe Nintendo didn't want to release something that is that cheap, because theoretically, a dock Switch, they could probably sell that for $150, maybe even less. And maybe they just don't want to have a Switch on the market for that cheap yet. And once again, going back to the whole idea that Switch 2 is releasing in 2025, if the Switch Mini releases for $150, or maybe even $200 at most, right, there's still the potential of the Switch OLED and the original Switch going on deep discounts next holiday. So I really don't think the Switch will have any issue selling in 2024, and if they release this new model, that really is just going to solidify that idea. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Do you think this makes sense? Do you think it makes sense for Nintendo to release a new revision of the original Nintendo Switch hardware in 2024? I am completely on board with this. I think it just makes so much logical financial sense for this company to release one last revision of the Switch. This will probably be the final one, and they'll get as many possible final sales out of the Nintendo Switch hardware before the Switch 2 releases in 2025, which I'm going to be making a very, very in-depth video breaking down why I think that is the case, also coming soon. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. Of course, subscribe here for more Nintendo Switch reviews, news, coverage, all of that fun stuff. Follow me on Twitter at BotoxGames, and of course, until next time, folks, peace!